welcome. You're watching Medically Speaking, and I am Meenakshi Upreti. I'm being joined by Dr. Anil Arora. He's the head of the gastro department at the Sir Gangaram Hospital. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Sir, there is a lot of scare around monkeypox. Everyone's talking about the same, considering that, it's coming right after the COVID pandemic. First of all, what exactly is monkeypox? And sitting in India, do we need to be worried about it?
Yeah, thank you, Meenakshi, for having me on your show. With the changes in the climate and the way we are destroying the nation and nation's climate as well as the nature per se, if you look at the trajectory of the animal viruses, they are trying to intrude and have their ugly faces into the human mankind. Now, the viruses which have been so prone to be living in animal kingdom alone, somehow, because we have been destroying their natural habitat, so they are finding a perfect solace in trying to inhabit the human beings. And this was the result of the third epidemic of coronavirus infection, which has landed up in the human domain over the last 2 decades alone. Akin to that, we recently have had about 270 cases, confirmed cases by WHO, of this new virus called monkey virus. In fact, the virus is not new, but its intrusion into the privacy and the domain of the human beings is new. So this was a virus which has been identified way back in 1958 in Congo, and it has surprisingly been localized only as an endemic disease in Western as well as the Central African country, even though it was reported for the first time in Congo. But over the last 1 month, WHO has recorded 270 confirmed cases, as well as it is suspecting another 120 cases of monkeypox virus infection. Now, this is a orthopox type of virus, which is akin to something like smallpox, chickenpox. It is a variola family virus. Now, the presentation is similar to what we see in patients who have chickenpox or measles. But the surprising thing about this virus is majority of the patients still do not give any history of travel to areas which are known to be endemic or from where the virus has already been reported. In fact, WHO has only on Sunday confirmed that 23 countries in the world have already reported. And hence, there is a natural scare that, like coronavirus infection, is it possible that is going to come back with a bang on the human mankind?
But sir, what are the manifestations of monkeypox? What are the symptoms? How does one watch out for it or even suspect it to begin with?
Yeah, you see, like any viral infection, monkeypox virus initially will first present with prodromal symptoms. You will have anorexia, you will have fever, myalgia, backache, and generalized body pains, followed by development of skin rash. Usually, as the virus enters into the body, it incites an immune response to which the body responds by producing the so-called pyrogens and other cytokines. And subsequently, it manifests in its overt form in the form of development of a rash, which mimics the rash of chickenpox and measles. An astute clinician can make an attempt to distinguish between the two. This is more a rash which mimics chickenpox rather than measles. And as against measles, which typically occurs in the childhood age group, this will affect more of males in the age group of 20 to 40 years. So the reason of suspecting is that anybody who has been handling the animals, anybody who has been in this so-called animal husbandry business, as well as those people who have traveled to the countries which have already reported COVID-19 infection. As you know, Meenakshi, the travel has come back with vengeance once the COVID has been declared to be almost ending all over the globe. So we have to be careful in a patient with a fever, followed by development of the rash, especially if you have contact with the people who have traveled from abroad or those especially from countries where it has been reported to be present in substantial number. So development of an unusual rash in a young man, especially between the 20 to 40 years of age, preceded by fever and myalgia, one should raise the suspicion of having monkeypox virus infection. And advantage of early diagnosis is that, if you can catch hold of it early, you can alert the health authorities, which can take the appropriate measures so that it can be contained not only for you, but always also to your contacts and your household people who may be more exposed to the infection and more vulnerable to it than you are.
Right. And so how many countries has it spread to? You said it was found in Congo, but as of now, of course, not confined in Africa. And the biggest question for all of us sitting here in India, anything for us to worry about yet?
Yes. As of now, I think the government of India has taken appropriate steps that any travelers who is coming to the Indian shores from countries which have already reported the occurrence of monkeypox infection, they are being screened, they are looked for the symptoms of the fever and rash. And in case there is a suspicion, their samples are being sent to National Institute of Immunology at Pune. And if there is suspicion, they are likely to. Now, there has been no documented case of monkeypox infection in India for the time being. And let us hope if we continue to take the adequate precaution from the countries from where it has spread, if we are vigilant, if we are aware of our health status as well as our knowledge about the disease, we may be able to ward off the epidemic.
Right. So, two more questions.
Now, there is
nothing to worry about. Two more questions, sir, before I let you go. Right. So, two more questions before I let you go.
Yeah.
First, how is monkeypox spread? Because you said that, it's spread by a physical contact. Whereas in coronavirus, there were also reports it could possibly eventually be airborne. What really, again, as I said, we know the symptoms, but how is it spread? Elaborate on that, sir, first.
Yeah. You see, it is a viral infection which typically spreads like chickenpox or smallpox by the contaminated fluid. As I said, it presents with a pustular rash, maculopustular rash, and the secretions of those rash, the fluid oozing from those skin lesions, the blood oozing from those skin lesions, or even droplet infections, and even the contaminants on the bedding on which the patient or the animal has been lying. These are the potent sources of infection. If I have to rate them, I think the infected secretions from the skin lesion, blood, this will be the more potent source of infection, but is also known to spread by the secretions on the bedding as well as by the droplet infection, as happens in the COVID-19 infection. I think most important factor for prevention is a good hand hygiene technique. So whenever you are handling somebody, especially the patient, the skin rash, or anybody who is running from fever, and if you are handling animals, please see to it that you adequately wash your hands before you touch your face, before you start eating your meals, or try to rub your nose for anything. So if you're able to have a good hand hygiene, keep on using the mask, which is still mandatory in city like Delhi for prevention of corona. I think we may be able to adequately ward off whatever threat is emanating from this monkeypox infection.
Right. So my last question, what will be your advice to those traveling abroad?
Absolutely. If you are traveling abroad, then you have to be careful. You have to continue having the same appropriate measures of hygiene, both in terms of respiration and in terms of using the mask, as well as good hand hygiene technique. Especially in countries where it has been reported in bulk, like UK has reported a lot of cases, France has reported a lot of cases. In these countries, you are likely to be more exposed to the people who have been inadvertently exposed to the infection. So if you continue to observe the universal precaution of using the mask for prevention by the droplet infection, which is airborne, and using a good hand hygiene technique, even if you are traveling abroad, I think the simple universal precautions will do far more good than trying to avoid the travel abroad if it is necessary.
I'll try to avoid travel abroad, but as you said, right after COVID, it's returned with a vengeance, and people are traveling abroad. The least they can do is follow the precautions which you have just listed out. So thank you for joining us on NewsX, and especially for explaining and really breaking down, simplifying this complex word, monkeypox, which has sort of created a fear in the minds of the people. As of now, for those sitting in India, nothing to worry about. Basic precautions, mask, hand hygiene, always helpful in any which way. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Thank you so much. Okay.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.